We give Father the glory, praise, and honor on this Bible study. Some Bible studies we do are kind of milk, kind of easy. This Bible study is going to be meat. It's going to be meat times 2. Because we're talking and we're going to dissect the 70 weeks of Daniel, which a lot of people have a struggle with trying to teach this thing. But I praise Father that probably one of the most toughest assignments that you can have is trying to study and trying to teach the 70 weeks prophecy and what that means. Because as you can see, we get into our carnal mind as far as the Gregorian calendar, but we don't follow the Most High's calendar. So I'm going to show all that with the year of Jubilees. We're going to really get a dissected teaching today. Okay, so I give all praise and glory unto the Father for the 70 weeks of Daniel. I would highly encourage to take notes on this one because there's some things that I'm going to say that we may have to pause and talk about it for a second. Because, like I said, this is the Matrix. And we have been lied to. We have been deceived, especially about what year we're in. We have been deceived. Big time. And it wasn't somebody who was Judah who was doing the research. Or somebody who's influenced with the 12 tribes. This was a guy from Germany. Sorry. But this is a guy from Germany who did, 2 of them, who did this research. And we're going to show that a little bit later. Our email, A New Revelation 2010 at Gmail for prayer requests. The YouTube channel, I give the Father all the glory and praises. I think we're up to 60 some odd videos. And I believe 2,000 viewers. And I think the Google Plus has 5,000 viewers. So I thank Father for that. Services every Sabbath and of course street preaching. Our teachings that we got coming up. The book of Revelation. We're going to break it down with the 7 seals, which we're already in now. The 7 trumpets, which I believe they're getting their lips ready to start blowing. The 7 vials, we're still a little away from that. The final, which is the great white throne judgment. And my prayer is that none of us, my prayer is that all of our names are in the book of life. That's what my prayer is. Our Wednesday night Bible study, this coming Wednesday, we're going to teach about Zebulon, who are the Mayans, right? Right. We're going to teach about Asher, who are the Incas, or were the Incas. And we're going to teach about Reuben, the so-called Seminole Indians and the Australian Aborigines. Okay, they're both the same. They look almost alike. Bible study after that, we're going to talk about Esau, the Hebrew marriage. For those of you looking to get married. There's a Hebrew way of doing things, and it's in the book of Deuteronomy. From the garden to the cross, we're going to talk about what happened with Christ from the time he was in the garden and he asked Peter and John to pray for him for 1 hour, and they couldn't even do that. To the cross. What happened to Christ's body physically? What shut down while he was on the cross? What shut down while he was on his way to the cross? Okay, we're going to talk about that. Last one is satanic symbols. There are demon symbols all over the place. McDonald's, demonic. Burger King, demonic. Fries, demonic. We're going to talk about Walmart. We know that's demonic, right? The sun. But we're going to get real deep into satanic symbols. Starbucks, definitely satanic. That's a water spirit. So we're going to really get into satanic symbols.
Monster drink?
Monster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Our next Sabbath teaching is going to start it off with Revelation. The beginning. Revelation is in 3 parts. The past, the present, and the future. We're going to talk about the past with chapters 1 through 4. We're going to break that down, and we're going to know what age we're in. Because each church, there was a different age. And we're going to break that down. Okay? But, I'm sorry, August. In August, during the Sabbath, we're going to do, it's going to be for spirits. We're going to know about healing and deliverance. We're going to know about the Holy Spirit, who she is. What is her job? What does she do? Demons and demonic strongholds. When we talk about demonic strongholds, we're not talking about lust. We're talking about spiritual spouses. We're talking about generational curses. We're going to talk about that. And then angels. We're going to do another Bible study on angels. Okay? Angels are very serious. It's not that fat, pugly thing with a halo on his head. That's not an angel. That's a demon. Okay? Our upcoming holy days. Feast of Trumpets is going to be September 12th. Okay? The Feast of Trumpets, we did that before, right? Okay?
Yes.
So we're going to have a teaching, plus we're going to have a meal. Okay? Day of Atonement, September 21st. You are to fast on that day. Okay? That's what the Day of Atonement is about. Feast of Tabernacles is a week Sabbath. So that's a double Sabbath. Okay? We're going to stay out here all week.
Oh, really?
No, we're not. All right. Feast of Dedication is in December. That's another double Sabbath. Okay? So these are our feasts that are coming up for the rest of the year. Of course, then come February, it'll be the Feast of Purim, and we'll start all over again. Okay? So these are our feasts. Feast of Trumpets. We have a double feast on the Tabernacles and a double feast on the Dedication. So, ladies, get ready. 70 weeks of Daniel. Be patient. Take your notes. Ask questions. Okay? Because this one took me a while to decipher. And with the Most High's help and outside resources, we were able to get it done. First, we need to know about the year of Jubilee. You can't understand what's going on with the signs of the times unless you know about the year of Jubilees. Why do we follow Sabbaths? It's because we need to know where we're at in Bible prophecy. If we don't follow the Sabbaths, then we have no idea where we're at. Okay? Let's get our first scripture, which will be Daniel chapter 12, verse 4.
But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased.
The scripture is talking about the internet. How information shall travel to and fro across the world. And knowledge and wisdom, knowledge is going to be increased, whether it's for the good or for the bad. Okay, so this scripture is talking about how times are today, and really is talking about how the internet is. And they didn't even have keyboards in Daniel's day. Okay, that joke didn't go over so well. All right, so the Jubilee is a study of the principles of the Sabbath. You have to know what the Jubilee is and what the Bible says the Jubilee is. Now, we know that there's Sabbath every Sabbath. We know that. We know that there's a Sabbath every 7 years. There's also a Sabbath every 50 years or 49 years, which is the Jubilee. The Jubilee are markers. There were certain markers that were produced on a Jubilee year, i.e., the birth of the start of mankind. Adam was on a Jubilee. Abraham, being summoned by the Most High, was on a Jubilee. Moses' birth was on a Jubilee. Christ's crucifixion was on a Jubilee.
Do they remember what the Jubilee is?
I'm going to break it down. The Hebrew word gabel means quirin ha gabel, meaning the horn of a ram. Now, such a horn can be made into a trumpet, and thus the word gabel came to be used as a synonym of trumpet. According to Leviticus chapter 25, verse 9, a loud trumpet shall proclaim liberty throughout the country on the 10th day of the 7th month, which is, guess what? The Day of Atonement coming up. After the lapse of 7 Sabbaths of years, equaling 49 years, in this manner, every 50 year was to be announced as a Jubilee year. All real property should be automatically reverted to its original owner. That's in Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10 through 13. And those who, compelled by poverty, had sold themselves as slaves to their brothers should regain their liberty. So what happened? When they were in debt and they would owe someone money, when a Jubilee year came about, that debt was wiped clean. Totally wiped clean. If you are a slave, basically slaves, not the slaves of America, but if you are a servant to somebody and you didn't get paid because you owed them, when the year of Jubilee came, it was wiped clean. All your debts that you owe, when the Jubilee year came on, was wiped clean. You started over. And the satanic people who started this country knew it. I'm going to show you that in a moment. In addition to this, the Jubilee year was to be observed after the manner of the Sabbatic year. Example, there should be neither sowing, nor reaping, nor pruning of vines, and everybody was expected to live what the fields and vineyard had produced of themselves. So you were not supposed to work during the year of Jubilee.
A whole year
A
off.
whole year off. You weren't supposed to work. That's according to Leviticus chapter 25, verse 11. No attempts to be made to store, because during the previous 49 years, that's what you should have been doing. And if you were poor, the rich had to take care of. If you were poor and you didn't have let's say your field was about as big as this yard right here, you don't have enough produce to make it for the year. So guess what? Your neighbor, who probably had 3 times the size of that field, would have to take care of you. That's what the Most High instituted with the year of Jubilee. But we failed. I'm going to show you that in a moment. Leviticus 25 verse 9.
Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month, and the day of atonement shall ye make the trumpet sound throughout all your land.
So they had a trumpet. Remember when we did the teaching on, no, we didn't do a teaching on trumpets yet. I did a Bible study on trumpets, and they had different trumpets, different sounds for different trumpets. There was a trumpet that sounded with the year of Jubilee. There was a different trumpet that sounded when, the enemy was coming, when they had to alert the military. There's a different trumpet that sounded when a king was being coronated. So imagine you sounding off the trumpet when a king is supposed to be coronated, but you're sounding off the trumpet where there's an army coming in. That wouldn't be good for the trumpeter. Okay? But there were several different trumpets for several different occasions. This occasion is the sound of the year of Jubilee. Okay? Y'all following me so far? All right. Let's get Leviticus 25, verse 10 through 13. And this will tell you that you're not supposed to work in the year of Jubilee. Let's get it.
And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family.
So this is where the servants, you would have to go back. You would be free from whatever work that you're doing. If you owe Yaakov $100 and you were at $80, the year of Jubilee came, you didn't owe Yaakov that extra 20. That 20 was wiped clean. And you got to go back to your family, and your possessions that Yaakov was holding, he had to give it back to you.
Mm. That's interesting.
Got it? See? The Most High sets his people up.
Yes, he does.
And this is the reason why those 12 tribes are in the situation that they're in. We're not supposed to owe creditors, debitors, or whoever it is. We're not supposed to. Let's get it. Verse 11.
A jubilee, so that 50th year be unto you. Ye shall not sow, neither reap that which groweth of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it of thine vine undressed.
So that 50th year, you're not supposed to do anything. Just like on the Sabbath, where you're not supposed to do servile work, on the year of Jubilee, that entire year, you are not supposed to work. Because we don't have to say what happens to people who were working on the Sabbath back then. Just by picking up sticks, a man was cut down. So the Bible clearly states that on the 50th year, you are not to do anything. You have to let the land rest. Let's get verse 12.
For it is the jubilee, it shall be holy unto you. You shall eat the increase thereof out of the field.
Verse 13.
In the year of this jubilee, you shall return every man unto his possession.
So again, when Father says something 2 times in the midst of a scripture, you better pay attention. When he says something 3 times, you really better pay attention. So twice he's saying, you return a man his possessions. There were no repos back then. Year of Jubilee came around, and this is every 50 years. If you repossess somebody's stuff, you have to give it back to them. Or else. Death. Okay? Leviticus 25:39.
And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bound
Year of
servant.
Jubilee, if your brother is poor, you're not supposed to be on him to pay the debt. It's removed. Thou shalt not compel him to serve. That means that you cannot sit there and hold your brother's debt over his head and say, you got to continue to work for me. It's the Jubilee. All is forgiven. All is forgiven with the Jubilee. Precursor to Christ. That's why the Jubilee is so important. The Jubilee is very important. And to understand Bible prophecy, the first thing that you have to understand is the Jubilee. Because without the year of Jubilee, you don't know where you're at. You don't know what year you're in. The world powers, I'll get to that later. The world powers change times and everything else. That's Daniel 7:25, and I shouldn't have said that because it's coming up soon. Personal liberty. Okay. Year of Jubilee produces personal liberty. The 50th year was a time in which liberty should be proclaimed throughout all the inhabitants. We should indeed diminish the import of this institution if we should apply it only to those who would need to be free. But everybody was set free. Undoubtedly, they must have been the foremost in realizing the beneficial effects. But the law was intended to benefit all, the masters as well as the servants. They should never lose sight of being brothers and citizens of a theocratic kingdom. So, we owe our life to the Most High. We owe our freedom to the Most High. We owe being independent to the Most High. More importantly, though, the freedom part. Okay? Restitution of property. Okay? And the institution of the Jubilee year should become the means of fixing the price of real property. Let's get Leviticus 20.
Go back.
Okay. And the people who started this country, they knew this. In fact, it's on a particular item in Philadelphia, I think it is. Used to be in Washington. And they engraved scripture on it to show, yeah, let's just see. Leviticus 25:15.
According to the number of years after the Jubilee, thou shalt buy of thy neighbor, and according unto the number of years of the fruits, he shall sell unto thee.
Now, if you don't know what the number of years of fruits, if you don't follow the holy days, you're not going to understand what's going on. Feast of First Fruits. If you're not following that, then you're not going to follow what's going on here. According to the number of years after the Jubilee, thou shalt buy of thy neighbor. That means that basically there was no inflation. None. The price of whatever item it was, it stayed that way. There was no inflation. Jubilee. Leviticus 25, it states every 50 years the land returned to its owners. The Old Testament was the basis of producing wealth. This would ensure that the gap between the rich and the poor would remain small because the means of producing wealth was equally regulated. There was no Oprah Winfrey's back in those days, and then you had poor Joe Schmo who can't even feed his family.
So now, like they say, it's 1% of the world money, all the wealth is just at 1% of the people.
Right. That wasn't
Maybe
back
a
then.
handful of people, you know.
Not even. Probably
So
not
they
even a
breaking
hand.
this, they going against.
Right. But everybody was to be equal. Equal. Okay, that's what the Jubilees was about. Moreover, it should be excluded the possibility of selling any piece of land permanently. The next verse furnishes the motive. In the same manner, the price of Hebrew slaves was varied according to proximity of the year of Jubilee. This passage, Leviticus 25, 47 and 54, this passage deals with the enslaving of a Hebrew by a foreigner living among the Jews. It goes without saying that the same rule will hold good in the case of a Hebrew selling himself to one of his own people. Still Leviticus 25, 23.
The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine, for ye are strangers and sojourners with me.
I love this scripture because this is scripture I use against those pastors who want to sit up there and say, God needs your money. Clearly states that the land is mine. Everything is his. So you don't need your money. Okay? And when it talks about, let me go back, when it talks about strangers and sojourners, he's talking about Gentiles. Anytime in the Old Testament where it talks about strangers or sojourners, he's talking Gentiles. Okay? Moreover, it should exclude the possibility of selling any piece of land permanently. The next verse furnishes this motive, and that's Leviticus chapter 25, verse 31 through 32.
But the houses of the villages which have no wall around about them shall be counted as the fields of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall go out in the Jubilee.
That means that the price, there's no price in the year of Jubilee. Because you can't do business in the year of Jubilee. Okay, go ahead.
Notwithstanding the cities of the Levites and the houses of the cities of their possession, may the Levites redeem at any time.
So, Levites. Once again, the Levite priests did not own land. Okay, they did not get land for an inheritance. They got what you would call the suburban parts. Okay, they didn't get an official land, but they did get, when it says cities, it technically means suburban areas. That's what the Levites got. Okay, and the Levites, because they were the priests, they would be able to redeem their land pretty much anytime they wanted. But that was a special that was special for the Levite only because they were the priests. All right, the deepest meaning of the year of Jubilee is found in the restoring of all that which in the course of time was perverted by man's sin, and removing the slavery of sin, and establishing the true liberty, the children of the Most High, and delivering the creation from bondage of corruption, okay, which is subject to account of man's depravity. Romans 8:19.
For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of the Most High.
Okay. For the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of the Most High. In the year of Jubilee, a great future era of the Most High favor is foreshadowed, and that's in Isaiah 61 verses 1 through 3. Shall be ushered into all those that labor and heavy laden by him who is anointed by the Spirit of the Most High. Let's get Isaiah 61 verses 1 through 3.
The Spirit of the Most High is upon me, because the Most High hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Most High, and the day of vengeance of the Most High, to comfort all that mourn, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, to oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Most High, that he might be glorified.
This is a prophecy. How are you going to know and how are you going to proclaim the acceptable year of the Most High when you think it's 2015? How are you going to do that? How are you going to understand where you're at if you don't even follow, if you're not following the Jubilees? How are you going to follow that? Precursor, we're in the last Jubilee. Just to let you know. Well, how does he know that? I'm going to show you in Scripture. Okay? The simple life. The Jubilee year being crowned point of all sabbatical institutions gave the finishing touch, as it were, to the whole cycle of the sabbatic days, months, and years. It is therefore quite appropriate that it should be a year of rest for the land like preceding sabbatic year in Leviticus 25:11. So just like the just like the weekly Sabbath, every week it's a day of rest. Just like the holy days are a day of rest. The feast, y'all said holy days, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just like it's a day of rest, every 7 years there's a Jubilee year. Every 50 years there's a Jubilee year.
Oh, it's a Jubilee year.
Every 7 years, yes. Yes, it is. The Jubilee every 7 years, that's not a Jubilee of rest. That's a Jubilee for your land to rest. Because let's say if you're growing corn for 6 years, that land all of a sudden becomes used to the corn. So the corn isn't going to be as strong. So you let the land rest. You till the land, but let it rest. Then that next year after that, you plant, let's say, beans. 6 years you plant beans. You let the land rest for the 7th year, and then you start to grow another crop. That's what that Jubilee was for, every 7 years. That's also in the book of Leviticus. So let's get Leviticus 25:11.
The Jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. Ye shall not sow, neither reap that which groweth of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it of thy wine undressed.
Right, so I went over this scripture again for a reason. It follows, of course, that in this instance that there are 2 years, one after the other, in which there should be no sowing or systematic ingathering. And that's Leviticus 25, verse 18 to 22. Which is here. And remember when I said that there was a 7-year Sabbath? look at verse 20. Let's read.
Wherefore ye shall do my statutes and keep my judgments and do them. And ye shall dwell in the land in safety. And the land shall yield her fruit, and ye shall eat your fill, and dwell therein in safety. And if ye shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow, nor gather in our increase.
So that's the 7-year Sabbath. Let's read verse 21.
Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years.
So the Most High is saying, if you keep this for 6 years, you do what you do for 6 years. That 7th year, I will increase you. But when I increase you, you're going to have 3 years worth of stuff, not one.
So isn't it hard? We can't, I mean, can we really keep that in this?
No. But we can still keep track of the year of Jubilees. We don't, this part, we can't do that anymore.
Because the powers that be.
Because the powers that
Stumbling block.
be knew that this was knew that this was out there. And I'm going to show you that they knew it was out there. So they stopped all that. Okay, they knew that this was out there. Let's read verse 22.
And ye shall sow the 8th year, and eat yet of old fruit, until the 9th year, until her fruits come, and ye shall eat of the old store.
So that's the Most High basically saying that you keep this every 7 years. I'm going to take care of you twice-fold on that 7th year. That's what he's saying. I did not switch not one word in Scripture.
So they purposely put stumbling blocks before us so we wouldn't be able
Right.
to keep this.
Correct. What shall we eat the 7th year? The answer is very simple and yet surpassingly grandeur. Then I will command my blessing upon you. Nothing was expected of the people but faith. That's all.
So we can store up food.
So we have to have faith in Father. Father said he was going to do it. So if you don't believe he's going to do it, you're basically calling him a liar.
So that means we shouldn't have deep freezers. We should be, how people have deep freeze and storing up food, that's like showing lack of faith.
Yeah, because when FEMA comes banging at your door, you're going to take your deep freezer on your back with you. And right here we
But you can
found
take
the
your faith
root,
with you, though.
yeah, the root of the simple life. No life without the Most High, and no simplicity without the Most High is not having true faith in Him. Okay? Matthew 4:4.
But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Most High.
So Christ knew Leviticus the 25th chapter. I'm quite sure he knew Leviticus the 25th chapter. So this was a precept to Leviticus the 25th chapter. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out the mouth of the Most High. And he was telling Satan that. He was telling Satan that. So he was just basically telling him, don't you remember the Year of Jubilees? No, I don't have to live by bread, but I live by the word of the Most High.
So when people worry about food and their refrigerator is empty, that Satan had no word.
Correct.
We just quote the scripture.
Deuteronomy 8:3.
And he humbled thee and suffered thee to hunger and fed thee with manna, which thou knowest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man doeth not live by bread only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Most High doeth man live.
Another wonderful precept. And we all talked about that manna, right? It's still falling from heaven today. Over in Israel. In that section that they were in, it's still raining manna today. It looks like clumped up grits.
I wouldn't say grits, because it's like flakes.
Yeah.
So like, the baby cereal, you ever seen that baby cereal, like the rice baby cereal, the flakes?
Yeah,
That's
it
what
kind of
it
looks like that.
But it's supposed to be sweet.
Right. Honeycomb.
Yeah.
So you think that by eating that, you'd be like super healthy?
It's on YouTube.
I'm saying like with eating that after you're like,
I'm for sure they are healthy because they live out like in a desert,
Right.
and they live off the land, so their food don't have all the pesticide and stuff. in it.
GMOs and all
Yeah,
that
so I'm
other
sure
stuff.
they're healthy.
Oh yeah. All right. When did the year of Jubilee stop? Kind of like what happened? Indeed, the tradition. There is indeed a tradition according to which Jubilee year was never being observed, neither in the time of Ezra or Nehemiah. We're going to be really deep in Ezra and Nehemiah later on, when we talk about the 70 weeks. The truth of this seems to be corroborated by the silence, of Josephus, who, while referring quite frequently to the sabbatic year, never once mentioned the year of Jubilee. Out of all that he wrote, the year of Jubilee is not mentioned one time, which lead us to believe that maybe somewhere around after the Persian captivity, up until the birth of Christ, is when we stop following the year of Jubilee.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to the good one. The year of Jubilee in the United States. This is how we know that the so-called Freemasons who founded this country knew about the year of Jubilee.
The forefathers.
I don't even want to give them
Yeah, they're not our founding fathers. so
right.
don't
The
claim
forefathers is Gad.
it. Yeah.
The Liberty Bell, initially cast in 1752 AD, which we'll find out is incorrect. Now it's in Philadelphia. It's an iconic symbol of American independence. The bell's first inscribed line quotes the verse found in the King James Bible. They had the nerve to put Leviticus chapter 25 verse 10 on it, which mentions the year of Jubilee. The Liberty Bell rang July 8, 1776. It only rang that time because it cracked. Why did it crack? Because they had the nerve to put Leviticus 25:10 on it, and they were Satanists.
Most High took care of that.
Mockery.
The crack, which occurred roughly 50 years after America's War of Independence ended in 1783, the crack was so severe that it never rang again. They had the nerve to put this on the Liberty Bell. Let's get it.
And ye shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family.
The biggest hypocrites they are the quote-unquote founding fathers,
Which was all,
which was all Edomites and which was all Freemasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest hypocrites, because they clearly knew what out of the entire Bible, this is the scripture that they chose.
Wow.
Several scriptures have liberty in it, freedom in it, but they chose this one. Why? It's because they knew that the Most High said that there would be a jubilee every year. Every 50 years. At this point, slavery was dead. They weren't setting slaves free. And I'm sure from the time the first inhabitants of slavery got on this country up until 1865, there had to be a jubilee in there somewhere.
Yeah.
That's over 50 years. There had to be a jubilee in there somewhere. Where if they were following this scripture, they said, come to, everything's forgiven, you don't have to serve us anymore.
Go back to Africa.
Go. But that didn't happen.
But one thing I want to point out, if they was able to put that in the scripture, and they knew about the year of Jubilee, they know the correct times and everything.
Yes.
They knew.
Yes, they do. They knew they weren't in 17 whatever AD.
So what they did it on purpose.
They did it on purpose. But I'm going to show you what really happened. And it goes back farther than the so-called founding fathers. All right, so here are the 10 Jubilee cycles. And we're going to really go into this when we talk about Daniel. Every 49 years there was a Jubilee. 49 times 10, 490, right? The 70 weeks of Daniel had 70 times 7, which is the same, 490. So you have to know your Jubilee cycles in order to know and understand the 70 weeks of Daniel. That's the teaching. Have a great time. Night.
Oh, really?
Uh,
We're all ready. We like, yeah.
no, that's not it. Y'all know it's more scriptures than this.
Yeah, we do.
Like 580.
All right. I want you to write this down. And I want you to look this up for yourself. The phantom time hypothesis.
Mm.
Okay? And I want you to read what's on the internet regarding this. A lot of people deem Eliag as a conspiracy theorist. Whenever you bring forth truth and it goes against what they teach and what they show, they call you a conspiracy theorist or they call you a nutcase. But what I did is took that phantom time hypothesis and put it with Daniel the 9th chapter. And it shocked.
Oh, they kill you.
Yeah. Or they'll kill you.
Let's not forget that one. They take you out. Some free death.
Right. Drug overdose or something.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, Herbert Eliag, he was a historian. He was in Germany. And he came about the phantom time conspiracy. 9/11 AD. Okay, we're going to get into all that. But this is very, 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 very important. Very, 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 very crucial to when we start talking about the 70 weeks of Daniel. Okay? All right. Let's break down the Jubilees. Now that we have an understanding on the Jubilees, 6,000 years equal 85 Jubilees. These Jubilees are known as markers. The first 50 Jubilees are from Adam's birth to Moses. You have 50 Jubilees in that time period. The next 35 Jubilees is from Moses' death to Christ's birth. There are 35 Jubilees in between that time period. Okay?
So Christ was born in a Jubilee year.
Yes, Christ was born, not died.
That makes
Sorry.
sense.
Christ was born in a Jubilee year. Moses died in a Jubilee year.
It makes sense because he redeemed us. Yeah, we were set. Okay, it makes sense.
Right. The last Jubilees, 35, which is 1,750 years. That's the Jubilees where we're in now. Okay?
I don't think they got it.
I got it.
So what year are we in?
No, we're not getting to that yet.
Can you repeat that again, please?
6,000 equals...
No, not that. The last part.
Okay, the last Jubilees, we're right now, from Christ's birth to today, we're in the last 35 Jubilees. Those 35 Jubilees equal 1,750. 1,750 years is very, very key for what we're about to talk about.
Oh, so since Christ's birth, it's been 1,750 years.
We're going to tie this with the...
I'm getting confused. I don't know.
We're going to tie the 700... I haven't gotten to the phantom yet.
Okay.
The phantom time theory yet. When I get to the phantom time theory hypothesis, then you'll see. But I just want to put this out there as far as the Jubilees right now. Okay, we got it? Okay. We are in the last 35 of the Jubilees, but what part of the last 35 Jubilees are we in? This is where it gets interesting. First, let's get Daniel chapter 7, verse 25.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and times and the dividing of time.
So, who is he shall speak great words against the Most High?
Obama.
Didn't he say, I am God?
Yep.
The world powers. Speak against the Most High, shall wear out the saints of the Most High. Who are the saints of the Most High? Us,
The righteous.
the 12 tribes. To think to change times. I'm going to talk about the time change that happened last week,
Wednesday, I believe.
Wednesday, when they added. We'll talk about that in a second.
It was Wednesday.
They think to change times and laws, and they think, and they shall be given unto his hand until a time and times and dividing of time. It's talking about they're going to be given up to the Most High. Okay? Hold this thought. And I just thought I'd put that in there. They're screwing around with our time.
Yeah, you know, that's that hypnotized.
Right.
hypnosis
We're
thing.
being hypnosis because we really think we're in 2015. When I tell you what year we're really in, it's going to shock you.
Well, I can't be held accountable for what I may say. I'm
Say it
putting
loud
that
enough on the camera so they can
I'm
hear.
putting that disclaimer out there.
All right, let's do the math. You got 2015, right? Let's minus 1750. That's the year of Jubilees that we have. You get a total of 265, right? Write down that equation because that's going to be key for when we start talking about the phantom hypothesis. Yeah, and I know I wrote it backwards for some of you people. No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
Okay, I wrote it right. As you can tell, I'm not a mathematician. That's why it took me a while to come up to think about this. Wait a minute now.
Reverend Walker
Press
had to really-
483.
Holy Spirit had to work with you.
Holy Spirit was about to give me a neck respect off of some of the stuff. All right. So let's show how close we are to the consummation of Christ. We know what the consummation of Christ is, right? No? I got scripture. I'll show you later. But we're getting close to the consummation of Christ. They are adding time to us. Okay, they're adding time. Why are they doing this? Let's talk about the phantom time hypothesis. When Dr. Hans Ulrich Nietzschnitz, see, that's why I need to find that the paper with their notes, because their notes are written in German.
Brother Yakael can read.
I know. That's why we're gonna work on that. We're gonna find that. I'm gonna find that document. Introduces his paper on the phantom time hypothesis. He kindly asks his readers to be patient, benevolent, and open to radically new ideas because his claims are highly unconventional. This is because his paper is suggesting 3 difficult to believe propositions. Number 1, hundreds of years ago, our calendar was polluted with 297 years which never occurred. Number 2, this is not the year 2005, but rather 1708. So if you do the math, it's not really 215, but 718. That's the year that we're in now. According to him. I'm going to show you according to the Bible where we're at. Based on his hypothesis, which ain't far off. Number 3, the purveyors of this hypothesis are not crackpots. These scientists, they're just not, just throwing stuff out just to make themselves sound good. They are real bona fide historians who were in the scientific community.
Yeah.
Oh, go back, please.
So
That's
they,
okay.
I mean, just from dealing with psychology and with statistics and have to come up with hypotheses, there's a lot that's put into this, and they just don't throw it out. I mean, it's like years and years,
It's years and
of
years
research.
of research.
Yeah, so they just don't be putting anything because their name is on this.
And I'm going to show you. Why are the world powers doing this stuff? I'm going to show you. I'm gonna show you. Up where you, I'm sorry.
Almost done, guys. Be patient.
So that 297 and that 265, kind of get where I'm going?
It never happened.
And I'm going to show you archaeological proof that those years are missing. Because we know every time period there was certain architecture that was done during that time frame. Okay, so I'm gonna show you something a little bit also. I'm getting excited. The phantom time hypothesis suggests that the early Middle Ages, from the year 614 to 911 AD, never happened, but were added to the calendar long ago either by accident or a misrepresentation of documents or deliberately falsifying calendar conspirators. This would mean, and the Roman Catholic Church is behind this, this would mean that all artifacts ascribed to those 3 centuries belong to other time periods. I'm going to show you that in a minute. And all events thought to have occurred during that time and other times are outright fabrications. For instance, a man named Hubert Ely, which was one of the scientists, one of the leading prominents of the theory, believes that Charlemagne was a fictional character, but what evidence is this outlandish theory based on?
Who is Charlemagne?
Charlemagne was a king of, I used to know it, Germany, I want to say. I used to know who Charlemagne was. Malcolm, who was Charlemagne?
I don't remember.
Great, thanks AP History. Just look it up. She'll tell you who Charlemagne was in a moment. The German historian named Hubert Ely first published in 1991 that he believed that actually 297 years were missing from time. That we do not live in the year 2015, but rather we live in 1718. These missing years were either caused by misrepresentation or falsification. Some missing time could certainly be accounted due to the switching of calendars throughout the centuries, which led to miscalculation and human errors. There were like 5 different sets of calendars before we got to the current day Gregorian calendar. Okay? That's where the errors are coming in at. Ely said this missing time should have only accounted for days or months, not 297 years. In fact, one simple calculation revealed that Pope Gregory made an error. It had been almost 13 days, not 10, that accumulated over 1,600 years on the Julian calendar.
Okay, hold on. Don't turn me
So instead of 10 days, they added 3 extra days,
Right.
and then with time,
Correct.
screw us up.
Correct.
He was,
But they did this for a reason.
he was a French king.
He was the first king of
French king.
a French king.
French.
Okay.
French.
That's crazy.
Oh, it gets wild. Especially when we go into Bible prophecy with the 70 weeks. That's why I say this teaching's we're gonna be a minute.
Does the leap year have anything to do with this too, or?
Leap year's a lie.
Leap year was instituted by the Gregorians.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, leap year has a play in this also. There was no leap year.
Daylight savings and all that.
Daylight savings, not necessarily.
That was for farmers.
All that stuff is,
I mean,
you
I'm
know.
Okay. Based off of that information and tie it with the Bible, you'll see that we are really in the year 1743.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. That was
Which
all
means there's
we
8
need.
years before. the
It
last
ain't
one.
hard for me to
No,
believe.
No, I believe
we're
it.
in the
Makes
year
sense.
1743 as of right now.
Yeah.
This is the nature.
Based on Bible prophecy and off of this information off the Phantom Time.
So,
Yeah.
but, dang, I just throws out everything, bro.
But I'm going to show you in Bible prophecy to solidify this. Yes, technically we're in the year 1743. Now remember,
So,
There's 35 years in there's 35 jubilees in the year 1750 years. There's 35 jubilees.
so when
Daniel chapter 9, it's going to really play into what we're about to talk about.
so if we say we're in that year, at the time when they told us that year had passed, what year was that?
What was that?
All right, because you said that according to that we're in that year, right?
We're in, no, according to, yes, based off of the information that Italy produced, plus, we haven't got to the Bible yet.
Right. So,
We're in 1743.
so if we're in that year, then back then when they said 1743, that was way.
That was like 14 something.
Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy.
Because then they lie and tell you the earth is 6 billion years old. And
When we know that's a
so
lie.
now, yeah, the earth is not that old.
Right.
So everything's an illusion, pretty much.
The Matrix.
The Matrix.
This is the one side look and then Sean is
Right.
Now, Neo.
But there's more. There's more. In his lecture, Horace Fuhrman, president of the Montuma Germanic Historica something, described how documents forged by the Roman Catholic Church
Hey,
during the Middle Ages were created hundreds of years before their great moments arrived, after which they were embraced by medieval society. This implies that whomever produced the forgeries must have been very skillful to anticipate the future, or there was some discrepancy in calculating dates. Whenever we go to evil, you can trace it back to the Roman Catholic Church.
But we have to know that man did not have this knowledge to do this. They had to be
Given by who?
some kind of power, whoever that's, well, they
Well,
say
the
Satan is
Roman
over Rome. Whoever their God is, whoever their servant. And I think the Roman Catholic Rome is Satan.
Satan.
That's Esau, though.
Right.
Those are the same people who persecuted Christ. Same people today.
Yeah,
Correct.
but you
But
know,
they hate themselves.
different nations have different fallen angels,
Yeah.
different gods over them. And
Right.
I think Rome is Satan himself.
Yeah. let's-
She's still writing.
okay.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, see, I'm for me.
Oh.
Thanks for what?
Kicked that out with me.
Okay. Got it? Let's go. All right, 1582, the Gregorian calendar, which we still use today, was introduced by Pope Gregory the whatever, to replace the outdated Julian calendar, which had been implemented in 45 BC. We know the Julian calendar was from Julius Caesar. Okay? We know Gregorian calendar from Pope Gregory, bunch of narcissists. The Gregorian calendar was designed to correct for a 10-day discrepancy caused by the fact that the Julian calendar was 10.8 minutes too long. But by Herbert Elic's math, the 1,627 years which have been passed since the Julian calendar started should have occurred a 13-day discrepancy. A 10-day error would only have taken 1,257 years.
So they're just doing some stuff.
Yes.
So hold on, in the Julian calendar, they did a 10-day one, or the Gregorian calendar was?
The Gregorian calendar. The Julian calendar, according to the Pope, was 10 minutes off. But doing the math, he did the math, and he suggested that 1,600 years was passed between the Julian and the Gregorian calendar, which would be a discrepancy of, when he did the math, and I don't know how he did the math because I'm not a mathematician, 13 days. And he said a 10-day error, it would only take 1,257 years.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we need those documents, and I need to find them, of their notes, so that we can read what exactly and how they did the math, which is in Germany, because they were German, and I lost it.
Yeah, he had it.
I had it, I X'd out of it by mistake, I hit the back button, I went back to another website, and
You know the
then
history?
I went to history,
Yeah,
and I had all kinds of searches on the history. I was clicking and clicking, and it was, I was, but I'll find it in here. Because those notes actually say on how they got the calculations. And we haven't even got to the Bible yet.
Is anybody mad yet?
Yeah, because I've been lied to my whole life.
Wait till you get the full picture, then you'll be mad.
Yeah, we haven't got to the Bible yet.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of did that in the wrong time anyway, to make sure this tells you all.
I thought we were like in like 2007. That's what I thought. I didn't know we were like in the 1700s.
We're back in the 1700s. Where's my horse and buggy?
Right.
All right, let's get it. So Eli and his group went hunting for other gaps in history and found a few. For example, the building in Constantinople, 558 AD to 908 AD, and the gap of faith, especially the gap of evolution of the theory and meaning of purgatory, 600 AD. From all this data, they have become convinced that at some time the calendar year was increased by 297 years without the corresponding passage of time.
So, after those events, so they just added 297?
They added 297 years
Wow.
That don't even exist.
that don't exist.
And I learned about that in so-called Christianity.
But I'm going to show you proof.
Oh, let me write it down. Fake events.
She gonna get put out of school next semester.
Because with everything, the one thing that stands standard is that when they did architecture, they always did it for a certain time frame. The eaves were always built a certain way because that was popular at that time. They changed the architecture as they went through different years and evolved and continued to build. So humanity, if you're taking a humanities class, you'll understand that there were certain points in time where the architecture dictated to what was going on in that time. The buildings indicated what that time period was. Following me? Y'all took humanities? No.
I did.
Humanity? Not yet.
Not yet? Humanities is the study of architecture, arts, things like that. Statues, stuff like that. It's very key, especially if you're a historian.
Maybe because I'm the only one
I'm
that's
drooling
the
right now.
furthest in support in here.
Yeah, she did that.
No, she didn't go there. Yes, she did.
All them loans too.
That's okay, but guess what? Then you see, we in the Jubilee coming up. I gotta pay them back.
Wow. Towards the end of the research paper, Nimitz asked the question that he knew would be a forefront of the reader's mind. Who and when and how and why falsified history by adding 300 years? He argues that the Catholic Church constantly falsified documents that upheld their theology, which according to him is well known in all historical circles. Seen the movie Da Vinci Code, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you know that they really are strict on their history and the dates on their history as far as Catholics go. They're really stringent. 588 AD, this happened. 600 AD, this happened. 650 AD, this happened. So to make your religion a world religion, why not change some things up and say that these things happened when in fact they never happened?
Well, that goes to show you, like,
And
It took a lot.
When we
of
get
time.
into Revelation, how this corresponds with the woman on the beast. Revelation, the 18th chapter. She had a couple of abominations. Ooh, I'm getting ahead. That's like 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Okay, calm down. Look, I was about to say, Reverend, Pastor, calm down, Elder. Okay, who's to say that they didn't falsify documents and added time, months, days, years in order for customs, relics, decrees to be perceived older than what they actually are? So if you want to say that this document is 500 years old, when actually it's 200 years old, which one is the more profitable?
500.
The 500-year one. So if you get this document, why not say that if you're creating, like Pope Gregory did, the calendar over again, why not add a couple of hundred years to make the authenticity of your documents even more authentic and worth more? But there's a more spiritual thing under this as well, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So that's our clock.
Just about, yeah.
But that just shows like the power behind them. If they're able to do all that,
Yeah, Satan.
that just shows.
Right.
Which, even with the clock, don't get us started with that, because how many hours really in a day?
8, or was it 9?
It's
19.
supposed to be 19
19
hours in a day.
There's no such thing as 24-hour days.
But they changed that too.
Yeah.
I thought it was 18.
No, I think it's
18.
18.
Yeah,
It's
18.
18 or
Okay.
19.
It's 18 and then 9-hour days.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they will be 18
Oh, okay.
then. Right.
Okay.
But see, Julius Caesar came around,
24-hour days.
changed all that.
He was a Roman too.
Yep. All right. Another theory centers around the Roman Emperor Otto III and his desire to make sure that his reign happened in 1000 AD to show that he understood the Christian millennialism. In order to do this, he had to falsify years to fill in the missing time. And you invent Charlemagne in his image, who was lived from 742 AD to 814 AD.
That's just so long. I can throw up right now.
So the Emperor Otto, whatever,
Otto III.
they're
And like I said, with this stuff, do the research yourself. Look it up yourself.
The point is,
Don't
they
take my
never
word
tried
for
to
it.
hide it from us. Because it's out there. They just believed we were so dumb. And
Right.
we didn't read that we were just.
They took it for
so
granted.
that was
They-
the
that we
false
would never
one
find it.
of the 1000 AD. That never occurred.
No, that occurred. Otto III is a real person.
Okay, so that occurred in 1000 AD.
Right, but he falsified it to make his reign go over the Christian millennialism. I don't have time to get into the Christian
Okay, I was
millennialism.
fine. I was lost. Okay.
Well,
and,
they can look that up, can't
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll probably look up what that was about.
and then
Because I don't have time to go through that. That's a whole Bible study.
okay, and then the Charlemagne.
Charlemagne,
No, what happened to Charlemagne?
he was a French king.
Okay.
they? What did you say he was? He was a. What did y'all say?
King of the Franks.
King of the French.
Franks.
Franks. Germans.
Franks. Oh.
So see, I knew he was German, but then you said Frank. I thought you said French. Okay, let's go, because we're recording.
Hold on. Let me get that year.
Okay.
Slow down.
What?
Okay.
Okay, I got it now.
It's the Sabbath. All I want to do is get in my
You can
words
turn it.
done.
Oh, really?
And something,
She's
something.
ready.
At the
Hey, hey, it's the Sabbath.
Go to the next one.
All right. Fellow historian, colleague of Elites, and phantom time hypothesis believer, Dr. Hans Ulrich cited a 1995 research paper revised in 2003. Several examples of evidence, at least to him, to prove that 614 AD to 917 AD never happened. This temple right here, Chapel of Achin, supposedly built in 800 AD, had architecture similar to chapels constructed over 200 years later. And I'm going to show you this. During this time period, the Byzantine Empire, and when you go through humanities, you're going to learn about the Byzantine Empire because there was a lot of architecture with buildings, and they changed the way that the churches was looking in the Byzantine Empire. Right? Right. Underwent massive government reform, yet no historical sources exist on the supposed reform of this period. Okay?
So that was built like 200 years later?
Right. Let's look at it. This is on the left is the temple, is the chapel of Achan. On the right, it's a normal church. See the similarities? Very similar. That church on the right was supposedly built about 1100 AD. They're saying that the chapel of Achan was built about 800 AD. But you see the similarities in the churches.
Well, how was Solomon Temple built?
What do you
And
mean?
then how was the Roman temples built?
What do you mean?
They were different.
Right.
But then,
Those are two different time frames.
right, that's what I'm saying. But then when Constantine took over and they made Constantine,
I see what you're going. Constantinople.
those same temple was built like with the Romans with their certain
Correct.
beams.
Correct.
So I mean, even that time is lied about
Right.
as well.
Right. So what she's saying is that Solomon's temple, when it was constructed, doesn't look like the Roman temples that were constructed because it was two different time frames. The Roman temples that were constructed when Constantinople was being built looks exactly like the structures in Rome, meaning that they followed the same architectural pattern.
Yeah.
Same thing here. The chapel of Achan was supposedly built 800 AD. This normal church over to the right was supposedly built about 1050, 1100 AD. Striking similarities. You see the eaves up at the top, almost the same. You see the pitch of the roof at the top, almost the same. You see the steeple, how the steeples are created,
The windows.
almost the same. You see the windows with the curved arches, almost the same. Curved arches meaning here, and curved arches meaning here.
Where the steeples at?
The
These
tall-
are
the
steeples.
tall-
Okay.
Okay? So you don't have to sit up there and, be a rocket scientist.
Yes.
You can show, based on architecture, on what they did back then. But there's more. Let's get Hosea chapter 6, verse 1 through 3.
Come and let us. Come and let us return unto the Most High, for he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days will he revive us, and the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight.
Hold there. This scripture is very, very, very key. 2 days he will revive us. On the third day he will raise us up. When we get into Daniel, this scripture is going to be very key, because on that third day, that's what we're close to right now. And no, there's not going to be a rapture.
And y'all know to the Most High, a day,
Is
a
it
1,000 years like a day. So
Right. So, yeah. Verse 3.
Then shall we know, if we follow on to know the Most High, his going forth is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain unto the earth.
Okay. So that's verse 2. I just like to put in more scriptures. Verse 2 is very important.
are you okay, sister?
Oh yeah, but
See?
no, the bombs are dropping on me.
You know, I said that this study is going to be meat times 2. I said that this teaching is going to be meat times 2. We haven't even got the Bible prophecy yet. To solidify everything that we talked about.
Make sure y'all ask your questions. Don't let Elder go on. Make
Right,
sure you get an understanding.
right. If you don't have an understanding, stop. If you're questioning something, stop. Okay? Since there are changing times, then they would say that either Christ already came or He's far from coming, which is not true. They want to cause confusion. Even this past week, they're adding a second to time. This past week, they added a second to time now. Y'all knew that, right?
Yeah.
They added a second to, what was it, Friday or Thursday of last week?
Wednesday.
Wednesday of last week. They added another second to time.
So instead of 60 minutes, it's
It's instead of 60 seconds, it's
Yeah,
61 seconds.
61 seconds, yeah?
They added a second
A
of
minute is
time.
61 seconds now.
It's 61 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Friday. That was Wednesday. We got to keep up with the news. So they added a second of time. Why are they doing all this? It's to deceive you from not understanding when the consummation of Christ is going to happen.
And you think you have time, like, I can just do whatever I want to do. I got
Right.
time before you get back. Yep.
It's to deceive you. You don't have that much time, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Well, it's going to be a little more than a minute. The law of same-sex marriage is a marker. This is a marker about what's going to happen. And I'm going to show you in the book of Daniel how this is a marker. Okay? But you know where I'm going to go next with scripture, right? Let's get Leviticus 20:13. Later. 9:23, the day of it's actually 9:21. The First Lady will welcome Pope Francis to the White House on September 23rd. This is by the Catholic News Service. The Pope is really coming to bless the abomination of gay marriage, which is a marker for the consummation of Christ. We are in the last Jubilee.
Yep.
No more jubilees.
We're in the last.
No more Jubilees. This is the last one.
Yep.
But we need to know where we're at in the last Jubilee. And I'm going to show you with the book of Daniel. Okay? But the president is coming to make a Pope. And we know everything is ran by the Pope, right?
Yeah.
We know this world is ran by the Pope.
Yep.
Pretty much.
And
He's the
Christ
top Freemason. Okay?
Well, no, they say he's like God. So they think they hold him higher than that. They say he's like.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean by top.
Because you got all these divisions in the world, like fighting which religion is right.
Right.
You got people killing each other, but at the end of the day, all the religions bow down to him.
Correct.
Right.
So
So
something ain't wrong
that's
with
why
that.
they say he's God.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Let's get Leviticus 20:13. You know I was going to go there.
It says, if a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them.
There you go. Plain and simple. You know I was going to go here. Jude verses 6 through 8.
And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day.
So how are you going to know that if you haven't read the book of Enoch? What are you going to understand? What are you going to get when it says the angels had not kept their first estate? If you don't read the book of Enoch. So Jude is quoting out of the book of Enoch.
How people don't even believe the book of Enoch says it's not biblical.
Right. Let's get verse 7.
Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and giving after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire.
So homosexuality, you're going to suffer eternal fire. Now when we did the Bible study on the homosexual agenda, the Queen James Version doesn't state going after strange flesh. It says going after animal flesh. Remember that? So, twist it.
So whenever it says straight flesh, it is homosexuality?
That's correct.
Okay.
Read.
Likewise also these filthy
Dreamers.
dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities.
So that's what the gay agenda, that's what they do. They are filthy dreamers, they defile themselves, and they speak evil of people who want to serve right. You can't tell me what to do. If I love a man, I'm going to love a man. You know? They talk that stuff.
Well, I
The
saw,
Bible clearly states on who they are. That's why the King James is going to be outlawed very, very soon.
I saw a video. It was a pastor. He was street preaching at a gay pride parade, and there was two gay guys, one guy in the front and one guy in the back, and they started humping on him.
Yeah, so that's the stuff we're going to see when we get to
So
the
I
Gay
was
Pride
like,
Parade.
well, I can't believe they did this.
Oh yeah, we're street preaching at the Gay Pride Parade in October.
Oh, it's
They have one in, there's a gay something at some place in downtown Phoenix. Get ready. Gay Pride Parade was in April,
They
and we
made
missed
a
it.
sandwich out of that elder. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, but see, that won't happen with us. I guarantee that. All right, let's do the math again. 2015 minus 750 equal 265. Where do we get the 750 from? 1750? It's the 35 Jubilees from Christ's birth to today. And I'm going to show you this in the book of Daniel. Not right now though. Daniel chapter 10 verse 11 to 12.
Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly. And none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand.
So we understand now what's going on. The wicked, they're not understanding. They're just doing it because they're led by Satan. But the people who are wise and following the Most High, we're going to be rose up and we're going to understand what's going on. Go ahead.
And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days.
1,290 days, roughly 3.5 years. Read.
Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1,330 days.
So blessed you if you get past that 1,290 day marker, which is 3.5 years. Question: how long was Christ's ministry?
3 years. No.
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yep.
I'm getting blank looks. I'm gonna have to explain it later.
Wait,
So,
wait.
but yes,
Oh, so it was last one, was it 1,300?
1,290 days is 3.5 years. But blessed is he that waited past that 3.5 year marker, which is 1,305 and 30 days, 1,335.
Oh,
Okay? So it's saying, blessed are you that make it past that point. Because something pivotal is going to happen. I'm going to show you in a minute. But you see where the marker of gay rights versus what's happening with Daniel 12:10? Now you're getting an understanding that this is a marker.
None of the wicked should understand. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me go on. I don't want to lose anybody. 1,290 days is 3.5 years. Okay? This is going to be key for later. Next week it won't be so.
You don't know.
Next week it'll be a little. We talk about Revelation. I mean,
Really?
Yeah.
No, it won't be a little easier, no.
there's 7 candlesticks.
If everybody ever read
24 elders.
Revelations, no, it is not going to be.
This is double meat. Next week it'll just be meat. All right, Daniel 12:12.
Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days.
So you have to know where you're at in biblical prophecy in order to understand that after the 3.5 year marker, if you make it, you'll be blessed. So we have to wait a little past 3.5 years.
When will that 3.5 years take place?
I'm going to show you. Now we get to the 70 weeks. Okay?
I thought we was at 7 weeks already.
Oh no, we haven't even talked about the 70 weeks yet. We have to do the Jubilees and we have to do the time hypothesis, the phantom time hypothesis to get an understanding. Now we're going biblical with it.
Are you
Okay?
sure?
Is your daddy sure?
Oh! Well, you know.
All right.
What they say about me?
So this is basically in Daniel, the 9th chapter. Cyrus' decree. Now, I'm going to explain something really quick. In the Bible, where it talks about King Cyrus, King Darius, and King Artaxerxes, there was more than one Cyrus, there was more than one Darius, there was more than one Artaxerxes. So when we're going through these scriptures and we're reading Darius in one scripture and Cyrus in another, and then Darius in another one, those are titles like Herod was a title. Herod, there was more than one Herod. So these are titles, not the actual name.
Kind of like Caesar.
Right,
So Darius is king.
right. Cyrus, king. Artaxerxes, king. Xerxes, king. Okay? All right. So Cyrus' decree was 537 BC. Darius' decree was 519 BC. Artaxerxes was 457 BC. Then you get the prophecy from Daniel, the 7 weeks, which gets us to 408 BC, then the 62 weeks, where the Messiah is anointed about 27 AD. That time period is 483 years or 69 weeks. The 70 weeks comes from 1 week being 7 years. I'm going to show you that in scripture. That 7 weeks, 1 year from the time the Messiah was anointed to the time the Messiah was crucified was 3.5 years. That other 3.5 years comes from the time that Christ was crucified up until the gospel was given to the Gentiles. This is all the second 35 Jubilee. The third set of Jubilees happened when Christ was born up until today's point. This is in the book of Daniel, and I'm going to show you this in the book of Daniel, and I'm going to show you how this is so important to biblical prophecy and what year we're actually in. Okay? All right. Before we get to Daniel, though, we have to understand that time period. So we're going to be in Ezra, Nehemiah, Ezekiel a lot. We're going to be in Daniel sometimes too. But I have to show you the kings. I have to show you the, let me just show you. The prophecy of the 70 weeks is complex and amazing detail, as much has been written about it. Of course, there are various interpretations. One thing is certain, the Most High has a timetable, and is keeping things on schedule. He knows the end from the beginning. That's Isaiah 46:10. And we should always be looking for the trumpet return of our Lord. That's in Revelation, the 22nd chapter.
How go back? Revelation. Okay.
Revelation
I got it.
22:7.
I got it. We're good.
Okay.
All them years in a room full of history books.
Yeah, when I was little, I had to, to get away from my abusive mother, I would stay in my bedroom, and I had like at least 40 to 50 history books. And I would just sit there and just read and read, because I would escape from her abuse. But little did I know that I was just, back then, that it was coming out now. All right. So, Daniel 9:25 Daniel 9:25, a commandment to restore and build the temple of Jerusalem. Remember, the temple is destroyed. Okay, because the Babylonians came in and Nebuchadnezzar wiped it out.
Yeah.
That was year 49. The Messiah is mentioned in Daniel 9:25 as the Messiah, the Prince. That was 434 years. And we'll get that scripture in a moment. The city was destroyed again in 70 AD. That's going to be Daniel 9:26. There's an unknown time period from the time 70 AD up until the consummation of Christ, which is what we're in now at Daniel 9:27. He shall confirm the covenant for 1 week, 7 years, 3.5 years, and 3.5 years. And I'm going to show you all this in the book of Daniel.
Don't turn me now.
So in that 70 AD is when our people fled.
There's a catch on that one though,
Okay.
because little do we know that there were 2 persecutions, not just the one in 70 AD, but there was a second persecution about 135 AD.
Is
I'm
that
going
what
to
the
show that.
Maccabees?
No. Maccabees was
Don't
before.
turn me up.
And so, with this unknown period, all this time is when they was changing our documents, when they was just doing all kinds
Yes.
of craziness.
Okay.
Yes.
So
They
what's
was
the
hiding
last?
our history.
In the unknown time period?
The unknown time
Yeah,
period
where
is
it says
from 70 AD up until he shall confirm the covenant for 1 week. We're in that right now.
So they're trying.
Remember, the laws gay marriage that was passed is a marker.
So we're in an unknown time period.
No,
No, that already happened when they erased our history and all that.
I'm gonna show you.
So what is
happened?
that? What is that? He shall convert the covenant.
I'ma show you.
Three?
I'm gonna show you. You're getting ahead of yourself. Calm down.
I know
Breathe.
you ain't saying that.
Yes,
When you say a marker, are you saying it as like a red flag or like as in a time period?
as a time period. Okay? Not a red flag, but as a time period. You can use it as a red flag if you want, a blue flag, but it's a marker, it's a time period. It's an actual specific, it's something specific that's going to happen as far as a time period. And the gay marriage, it not only made gay marriage, it made the whole homosexual lifestyle to be accepted throughout the land. That was huge.
They
And
made it
the Bible-
constitutional.
Right, and the Bible is clearly, well, let's get to it.
Jesus.
All right, the book of Daniel, chapter 9, verses 1 through 14.
In the first year of Darius, the son of
Sarsis.
Sarsis, of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans.
Uh-huh.
In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years, whereof the word of the Most High came to Jeremiah, the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolation of Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And I set my face into the Most High to seek by prayer and supplication with fasting and sackcloth and ashes.
Uh-huh. So Daniel understood what was going on. Daniel understood what the number of years meant. He understood that. That part. The rest of it he was kind of confused on. Because of course the Messiah hadn't came yet. Okay? Verses 4 through 6.
And I prayed unto the Most High and made by confession and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, Ahia, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him, and to them that keep his commandments.
Uh-huh.
We have sinned and have committed iniquity, and have done wickedly, and have rebelled even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgments.
Uh-huh.
Neither have we hearkened unto thy servants, the prophets, which spake in thy name to our kings, our princes, and our fathers, and to all the people of the land.
So Daniel basically is praying to the Most High. The Most High gave him a revelation, and that revelation shocked him. So he went into prayer.
Repenting.
He went on repenting because they sinned for everybody. He went on to say that we did not listen to the prophets when the prophets were coming. They didn't listen to Jeremiah when Jeremiah was telling them what was going to happen. They put him in jail several times. They beat him several times when he was telling them what's going to happen. Same thing with Isaiah. Isaiah was killed because he was prophesying on what was going to happen not only before the Assyrian captivity, but the coming of Christ.
But who killed them?
Uh,
Our own people. Yeah. 'cause you're
Not
straight.
Jeremiah. Jeremiah went to Africa and wasn't heard from since.
They went to Egypt.
Yeah, Africa. All right, let's get verse 7 through 10.
O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us confusion of faces.
We look confused right now, but we won't be after this. Go ahead.
As at this day to the men of Judah, and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near, and that are far off, through all the countries, whether thou hast driven them, because of their trespass, that they have trespassed against thee. O Lord, to us belongeth confusion of face, to our kings, to our princes, and to our fathers, because we have sinned against thee.
So we're confused right now. We're like, wait a minute, hold up. Something's not right. It's confusion. That's fine. Let's get it. We're on verse 9.
To the Most High belong mercies and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him.
Mm-hmm.
Neither have we obeyed the voice of the Most High our God, to walk in his laws which he set before us by his servants and prophets.
Walk in his laws, meaning not following the Jubilees anymore. Not following the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High anymore.
So by this time they weren't doing the Jubilee anymore?
No,
No.
this is the Babylonian captivity.
Oh.
Babylonian/Persian captivity. They weren't following the year of Jubilees then. Okay? Verse 11 through 14.
Ye all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing that they might not obey the voice, therefore the curse is poured upon us. And the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of the Most High, because we have sinned against
They
him.
didn't follow the Sabbaths. They stopped following the Sabbath. They stopped following the year of Jubilee. They stopped following the seventh Sabbath, the 7-year Sabbath. They stopped, and basically, when they broke that commandment, they broke all of it. Verse 12.
And he hath confirmed his words which he spoke against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem. As it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil is come upon us. Yet made we not our prayer before the Most High our power, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand thy truth.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore he hath the Most High watched upon the evil, and brought it upon us. For the Most High our power is righteous in all his works which he doeth, for we obeyed not his voice.
Obey not his voice. All the evil is come upon us. Thinking that we're in 2015, thinking that everything about this world is being in the Christian church. All that evil has come upon us because we're not following the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. We're not following the 10 commandments that he gave us. The 10 very simple commandments. We're not following that. We're not doing that. The Most High, he's watching all this evil. And I'm going to tell you something, he's about to do something about it. Key points. I want you to remember this for later. Number 1, finish of transgression. Number 2, end of sin. Number 3, reconcile with the Most High. Number 4, everlasting righteousness. Number 5, anoint the Most Holy. And number 6, commandment to restore. This is all going to be very key when we start talking about what the consummation of Christ really is. And I'm going to have this same chart later. The Bible is more than just a book of stories. The Bible is just more than some men sitting down writing.
That's what the anoint the Most Holy.
Yes, that's it. Anoint the Most Holy. That's correct. It's in Scripture.
Okay, you spelled it wrong.
No, I didn't. That's it. Anoint the spell wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew somebody would probably figure it.
And you got righteous spelled wrong.
You know what?
Girl.
At this point, my eyes was crossed.
What does the Bible says about not to correct the elder?
Oh, that's it.
You didn't know.
If it's incorrect, then I would.
It says not to
there is a
rebuke.
scripture. There is a scripture, but
It's
if,
exactly right.
let's get past that.
I was just messing with
Today's pick on sister or fat baby.
you. So every time we need something written out of spell, we're gonna come to
You
her.
gonna come? I'm
Yeah.
gonna text her. How do you spell this? How do you spell that?
I got something for her.
Yeah. I don't need spell check. I have sister or fat.
What?
How you spell done and send it to me. How you spell
Right. Oh goodness. All right, let's break it down. Let's break down to 7 weeks. We have 7 weeks equals 60 weeks equal 2 weeks. That comes out to 69 weeks. This is going to be in scripture. 70 weeks, 1 week equals 7 years. I'm going to show you that in Genesis, the 29th chapter. 3.5 years is very key.
Oh, you
for
said
what we're
7
talking
weeks
about.
equals 1 year?
No, 7 weeks equal 1. I'm sorry, 1 week equals 7 years.
Okay, let me write that.
It's confusing?
Yeah.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that 7 weeks equals 60 weeks equals 2 weeks? Is that from that chart that you showed us? Is that what it
Yes.
is?
Yes, that's from the chart. Thank you, somebody's watching. Yes, that's from the chart that I had up earlier.
Yes, you're right. Fear, come on.
Well, see, this is dealing with numbers. I'm not really good at math.
Me neither.
I'm good at all things that Christ strengthens me.
All right,
Okay, we got this.
Yeah.
We got this. All right, let's get it. Genesis chapter 29, verse 26 to 30.
And Lebanon said, "It must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years."
Stop. Okay, so right here in verse 27, fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. So we know that Jacob had to serve 7 years for Laban because they tricked him into marrying Leah and not Rachel. Okay? So this is where we get where 1 week in Daniel equals the 7 years. Read.
And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel his daughter to wife also. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah, his handmaid, to be her maid. And he went and also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him yet 7 other years.
Right. 7 years, 1 week. Got it? Okay.
You be getting on my nerves.
Y'all got it? Do you understand?
I'm
7
going to show you
years.
again. Let's get Leviticus 26, 27, and 35.
They look kind of strange over
A
there.
little bit slow.
They got wrinkles on their forehead.
Just a little bit slow.
Well, we got the Holy Spirit, so if you start getting wrinkles, we just pray those wrinkles go away.
Now
Let's get
that's
it.
they not understanding.
Okay, hold on, wait a minute. Let's go back. Who doesn't understand this? Really? Okay, what is it that you don't understand?
Can you like me? Like how you? I don't. Just a little bit slower.
What?
What?
You don't understand how the 7 years is 1 week?
Yeah.
You don't understand how the 7 years is 1 week?
Because 1,000 years to the Most
Oh
High is 1
yeah,
day.
I remember. I get
And
it.
1 day
Okay.
to us is 1,000 years.
Yeah. Okay, I got it
That's
now.
why.
I
One
remember.
day, so
Yes, so it's like-
The 1
1
week,
day to
7
us
years
is
is because the Bible says it's 1 week, 7
I
years.
got it. I remember
That
now.
too.
so 1 day is a year.
Precept upon precept, line up.
All right, let's get Leviticus 26.
And if ye will not for all this hearken unto me, but walk contrary unto me, then I will walk contrary unto you also in fury. And I, even I, will chastise you 7 times for your sins. And ye shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters shall ye eat. And I will destroy your high places and cut down your images, and cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of
Okay,
your
so
idols.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I will destroy your high places and cut down your images, and cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of your idols, and my soul shall abhor you.
So that's pretty bad when the Most High says, my soul shall abhor you. Have hatred towards you. Okay, but I will chastise you 7 times for your sins. Okay?
So that's 7 times like 49 years?
No, 7 times. Yeah, if you think of it like that, 7 weeks is 49 years. Read.
And I will make your cities waste and bring your sanctuaries unto desolation, and I will not smell the savor of your sweet odors. And I will bring the land into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And I will scatter you among the heathen, and I will draw out the sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths, as long as it lieth desolate, and ye be in your enemies' land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy enjoy her Sabbaths. As long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbath, when ye dwelt upon it.
So verse 34 is key. Because verse 34 is telling us why this is going on.
Because nobody honored the Sabbath?
Because no one honored the Sabbath. Verse 34 tells us that because we're not doing what we're supposed to do on the Sabbath itself, that all that punishment is going to happen to us.
And you all know that the Sabbath is Friday sundown until Saturday sundown. And you're not to make any purchases, no housework, no cooking, no nothing. Read the scriptures, worship.
Don't go to church on Sunday.
There you go. No church on Sunday.
You don't go on Saturday either. Trying to go to a Sunday.
Okay, how can we be healed? Leviticus 26:40.
And they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me.
So we just need to turn back to the Most High.
Turn back.
That's how we can be healed from all that was going on. Just wanted to put that in there. Jeremiah chapter 25 verses 1 through 11.
The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, that was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, the which Jeremiah the prophet spoke unto all the people of Judah, and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, from the 13th year of Judah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah, even unto this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of the Most High hath come unto me, and I have spoken unto you, rising early and speaking, but ye have not hearkened. Verse 4, and the Most High hath sent unto you all his servants, the prophets, rising early, and sending them, but ye have not hearkened, nor inclined your ear to hear.
So remember when Daniel was speaking, talking about Jeremiah, and how they weren't listening to Jeremiah? This is the reason why they weren't listening to Jeremiah. Verse 5 through 8.
They said, turn ye again, now everyone from his evil way, and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that the Lord hath given unto you, and to your fathers forever and ever.
That's what we do when we go out street preaching. Read.
And go not after other gods to serve them, and to worship them, and to provoke me not to anger with the works of your hands, and I will do you no hurt. Yet ye have not hearkened unto me, says the Most High, that ye might provoke me to anger with the works of your hands to your own hurt. Therefore, thus says the Most High of hosts, because ye have not heard my words.
You have not heard my words. Let's see what's going to happen. Okay, technical difficulty. Here we go. Verse 9 through 11.
Behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, says the Most High, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, And I will bring them against this land, against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and I will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, and hissing, and perpetual desolation.
Hold there. The Most High will use anybody, and he used Nebuchadnezzar, who is a pagan king, to take captive Jerusalem. So don't sit up here and tell me Edomites are going to go to hell. He'll use Edomites to go to heaven before you do. The Most High put a spirit in Nebuchadnezzar to take over Jerusalem. Why? Because of their disobedience. Let's read verse 10.
Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth, and the voice of gladness, the voice of bridegroom, and the voice of bride, the sound of millstones, and the light of candles.
So he's saying he's going to take everything away from them because they were not following the Sabbaths, and they were not following the Jubilee. And because they were not following the Sabbath and the Jubilee, the Most High knew what was going to happen in the future. It was very key for them to follow the Sabbaths like he told them. Let's get verse 11.
And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years.
They were in Babylon captivity 70 years. Now I'm going somewhere with all this. Okay? There was a command given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's in Psalms 105, verses 6 through 11.
O ye seed of Abraham, his servant, ye children of Jacob, his children, he is the Most High, our power. His judgment are in all the earth. He hath remembered his covenant forever, the word which he commanded to do. He commanded to 1,000 generations, which covenant he made with Abraham and his oath unto Isaac, and confirmed in the same unto Jacob for a law, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant, saying, Unto thee will I give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance.
So the land of Canaan we know is Israel. Okay, but he said that this would be an everlasting covenant. So we broke that everlasting covenant with the Most High. And that's why all this is coming about us. But I'm going a totally different way so you'll understand on why the 70 weeks happened. Okay? So let's get back to Daniel. And that should be Daniel. What in the world?
10.
What?
That should be Daniel. It should. I thought it was Daniel 9, 16 through 19.
O Lord, according to all thy righteousness, I beseech thee, let thine anger and the fury be turned away from the city, from thy city, Jerusalem, thy holy mountain, because for our sins and for the iniquities of our fathers, Jerusalem and the people are become reproach to all that are about us.
It's 10.
9.
9.
Daniel
Okay.
9.
Yeah, it should be 9. Go ahead.
Daniel 9, verse 17. Now therefore, O our Father Ahiah, hear the prayer of thy servant, and his supplication, and cause thy face to shine upon thy sanctuary. This that is desolation for the Lord's sake. O my God Ahiah, incline thy ear and hear, open thine eyes, and behold our desolation and the city which is called by thy name. For we do not present our supplication before thee for our righteousness, but for thy great mercies. O Lord, hear, O Lord, forgive, O Lord, hearken, and do. Defer not for thine own sake. O my God, Ahiah, for thy city and thy people are called by thy name.
So he's praying. This is more of a prayer that Daniel was praying to the Most High for the desolation that they were in Babylon/Persia. So basically he was pleading with the Most High. Why was he pleading with the Most High? Let's get Ezekiel chapter 21, verses 1 through 4.
I got it. I got to find it.
And the word of the Most High came upon me, saying, Son of man, set thy face toward Jerusalem, and drop thy word toward the holy place, the prophecy against the land of Israel. And say to the land of Israel, Thus says the Most High, Behold, I am against thee, and I will draw forth my sword out of his sheath, and I will cut off from thee the righteous and the wicked. Verse 4. Seeing then that I will cut off from thee the righteous and the wicked, therefore shall my sword go forth out of his sheath against all flesh from the south to the north.
So the Most High is basically saying, you know what? They continue to sin. They continue to not follow my law, statutes, and commandments. So I'm going to punish them for their sin. By punishing us for our sin, we forgot where we were. Okay? We totally forgot where we were. Of course, not at this time. We knew where we were at this time because there was no Julian calendar at this time. But we weren't following the Sabbaths anymore. We weren't following the holy days anymore. So we continue to rebel against the Most High. Curses for the wicked and the return of Yeshua. Let's get Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 25 to 27.
And thou profane wicked prince of Israel, whose day is come when iniquity shall have an end.
Iniquity shall have an end. Go ahead.
Thus saith the Most High, remove the diadem, and take off the crown. This shall not be the same. Exalt him that is low, and abase him that is high. I will overturn it. And it shall be no more, until he come whose right it is, and I will give it to him.
All right, so the verse 27 is talking about Christ. But we have an overturn, overturn, overturn. Anytime the Bible has 3 consecutive words in it, you better pay attention because there's something that the Most High wants to tell us. So let's find out what that is. The Prince of Israel is the people. There would be no more kings after the 3 overturns. No more kings of Israel, no more kings of Judah after this.
Who was the last king?
Let's show you. 2 Chronicles chapter 36, yes, verse 4 through 21.
And the king of Egypt made Eliakim, his brother, king over Judah and Jerusalem, and turned his name to
Jehoiakim.
And Necho took Jehoahaz, his brother, and carried him to Egypt. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High, his God Ahijah. Against him came up Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and bound him in fetters to carry him to Babylon.
Overturn number 1. Read.
Nebuchadnezzar also carried off the vessels of the house of the Most High to Babylon, and put them in the temple at Babylon.
Put him in the temple at Babylon. We all know the captivity story. He came in, swiped out, took all the gold and stuff out of the temple, even the cups, and took them back to Babylon. This is overturn number 1. He came up against him came up Nebuchadnezzar. This is Jehoiakim we're talking about. Let's get number 2. Read.
Verse 8. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and his abominations which he did, and that which was found in him, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. And Jehoiakim, his son, reigned in his stead. Jehoiakim was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High.
How can he do evil in the sight of the Most High? He's 8 years old.
I was just going to say that.
Let's read. Verse 10.
And when the year was expired, King Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babylon with the goodly vessels of the house of the Most High, and made Zedekiah his brother king over Judah and
So
Jerusalem.
Zedekiah was made king. This is overturn number 2. Read.
Zedekiah was 120 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Most High, and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet, speaking from the mouth of the Most High.
Overturn number 3. You had Jehoiakim, number 1. You had Jehoiachin, number 2. And you had Zedekiah, number 3. These are the last 3 kings that reigned in
The rebels, and them that transgress against me, I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Most High.
So even if you make it to the wilderness, you're not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Even if you make it to the wilderness, because there's going to be people who are going to rebel. I don't want my Hebrew name, because at that point you better know your Hebrew name. I don't want my Hebrew name. You're a rebel. I'm Miss Lobster. You're a rebel.
I forgot what scripture that is. It says that people are going to be behind trees eating pork.
Right.
So,
So at that point, if you sin in the wilderness,
There's no grace.
there's no grace.
cut up.
It's a wrap.
They probably just going to be falling from behind trees dead with that pork sandwich.
Yep. It's a wrap. If you make it to the wilderness, you have to make it to the wilderness first, but you can't make it to the wilderness if you can't discern the times. If you're still thinking that I'm in 2015, and the Bible is clear on where we're at right now, and you say, well, I don't believe it, you're not going to even make it to the wilderness. You might as well just pack your stuff up and go to the FEMA camp right now and just wait until they open the doors. Because you ain't going nowhere. In the wilderness, once we get to the wilderness and you decide that you just want to commit sin, I can't stand that person.
Fornicating.
Bam!
Yeah.
You're out.
That's why I stress and hear a lot that
If you
we
can't
have
follow
to
the
get
Most
along.
High in here now,
Yeah.
then how do you think you're going to make it to the wilderness? There's grace here. There's no grace in the wilderness.
Nope.
None. So the first sin that you do in the wilderness, you're cut off. And that ain't my word. We just read scripture. Now let's get to a lighter side. Okay, you got to keep the laws. You have to keep the laws. And by knowing the laws here will help you in the wilderness.
That's right.
It will help you in the wilderness. If there's mushrooms being grown about all over the place, you know that you're not supposed to eat mushrooms. So therefore, you're not going to be picking them and eating them in the wilderness. Because if you do, instant death. So you already know that. So that's why the law, statutes, and commandments, that's why these Christians who run around here saying, well, the Old Testament is done away with Christ got on the cross.
No.
Sounding all wimpy-fied.
When Peter had that dream.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not talking about the food. I'm talking about what they say about as far as the Old Testament. No. Christians are not going to make it to the wilderness. Sorry.
They still eating pork. They doing some stuff.
Let's get Ezekiel 37, 21 through 28. There's another wonderful scripture that will uplift us.
And say unto them, thus said the Most High, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and I will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land.
So where is it that it says that we should get on a plane and hop over the Tetra or Patros? Where does it say that? It says that the Most High will take us from the heathen. 22.
And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself. This is the second coming. Go ahead.
And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all.
You know what the two kingdoms are?
The northern and the southern kingdom.
No, not the northern and the southern.
The
Two
Most
kingdoms
High
are
is-
physical and spiritual. No longer will you have a physical body. You'll have a spiritual body. No longer will you have disease and acne and all that stuff running through your body. You're going to have a spiritual body. That's what that means. But let me show you. Verse 23.
Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor their detestable things,
Uh-huh.
nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places
Uh-huh.
wherein they have sinned, and I will cleanse them, so shall they be my people, and I will be their God.
Uh-huh. Verse 24. Very key.
And David my servant shall be king over them,
Uh-huh.
and they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them.
So David is going to be king, not Christ. David is going to be king.
What?
Now, read verse 24
No, I
again.
see it. I see it.
Okay. David is going to be king in the New Jerusalem. It's not going to be Christ. That's false teaching. It's going to be David. Christ is not going to be king over
Oh,
the people.
Jerusalem. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I get it. He's going to be king over the New Jerusalem, David, but Christ
Ding, ding,
is
ding.
king over
Correct.
everything.
Right. Got it?
Okay.
So that's why I
So
say
where's the
king of
12,000
kings.
going to come in at?
With the
Where the 12,000 going to come in at?
The New Jerusalem.
with David,
With David. But what are they going to do?
they're going to be the government,
They're going to be the
the
government,
new government.
the rulers, the new rulers of the world. So great, I don't have to teach on that. Let's, okay, we read 24.
The righteous government. Let me say that.
Right.
Right.
25.
And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob, my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever.
Uh-huh.
Verse 26. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them
Wow.
forevermore.
So go back where it says multiply them. Will people be having babies?
That doesn't change. Didn't they have, that doesn't change. Now, there won't be no fornicating going on. But that's not going to change. It's going to be back to the way it was in
When
the
Adam
garden.
and Eve.
Correct.
And Adam and Eve could have had babies.
They did
Yes,
have
that was
babies.
one of the commandments that was given to them. Verse 27.
You gonna be next too?
My tabernacle also shall be with them. Ye, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Verse 28, and the heathen shall know that I, the Most High, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in their midst of them forevermore.
Question, verse 28, the heathen. Now at this point we're past the second coming. This is the New Jerusalem. How are the heathen going to know?
If they come on board with the correct doctrine,
No.
Well, they'll be able to see us from when they're going through.
I'm sorry? No. They're looking up at us. You're very close.
That's what he said.
What did he say?
When in the lake of fire.
When they're in the lake of fire?
They'll see all our happiness and joy. It's one of the
no,
Right.
Isn't it one of the days?
One of the days?
Yeah, when
He's
they
talking
die.
about
Oh, you're talking about second Advent?
Yeah.
No, that's when you go to hell.
Oh,
Yeah.
The lake of fire, when they're in the lake of fire, they're going to see the glory of the Most High. They're going to see everything that they missed.
Mhm.
They're going to see that. Huh?
that's what you're talking about right now?
Yeah, verse 28. I had asked, well, how are the heathen going to know that the Most High is sanctifying Israel? It's because the heathen in the lake of fire, first of all, you're separated from Father himself. Second of all, you're going to be in all torments. Third of all, the most horrific torment is seeing what you missed out on.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrifying. All while being tortured. And you're not being tortured by demons. That's going to hell. There's no more being tortured by demons when you're in the lake of fire.
It's fire.
It's just fire and brimstone.
And that's when your spirit and your flesh.
That's your spirit, flesh, and your soul.
And
Because
it
when you go
never
to hell,
dies.
it's just your
So,
what? It's just your soul. Okay.
So over and over, 24/7.
2 kingdoms, 2 separations. No more physical but spiritual beings on the earth. That's what it means when the 2 kingdoms would be separated. Not the northern and southern tribes. Again.
Go back one more time. Okay, I'm done.
What did you need, an H? All right, so let's get it. 6,000 equal 85 jubilees, which are markers. The first 50 jubilees are from Adam to Moses. The next 35 jubilees, Moses' death to Christ's birth. The last 35 jubilees, or 1,750 years, is from Christ's birth till now.
What? How do I go back? I'm sorry.
This is a chart that I've shown 3 times.
It's different though. You got 6,000 equal, and then
It's
you
the
got.
same one.
It's the same one.
It's the same
Oh,
one.
okay, then go.
Yeah. All right. All right, we are in the last 35 jubilees, but what part of the last 35 jubilees? Based off the information and tied with the Bible, you'll see that we're at 1743. Based on the Bible, we are 3 years for the consummation of Christ.
That's right.
3 years for the consummation of Christ.
So you
Yeah.
said Christ coming back and
Don't have that much time to
Not
get right.
coming back.
No, not coming back. This is the consummation of Christ. So let me explain what the consummation of Christ is in Matthew the 24th chapter.
But he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. Shall he save? And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
All right, verse 14. There you go.
So we have 3 years to get the truth up.
This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached unto all the world for a witness to come unto all nations. And then shall the end come. Now, verse 15. Read.
When ye therefore shall see the abominations of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whose
Read it.
readeth, let him understand.
All right. Verse 15. This is Christ speaking himself. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet. We just went through Daniel, the 9th chapter. The 70 weeks. Christ is talking about the 70 weeks. Stands in the holy place. Once you understand that, then you know that the gospel needs to be preached to all 4 corners of the earth, then the end shall come. The end of what? Captivity. Good one. End of what?
See?
Sin? No. There's still going to be sin after the consummation of
In
Christ.
the time.
End of time? I know.
Grace?
End of grace? No. Because the Most High is still going to give you grace.
And the Babylon.
End of Babylon.
Get out. We're just yelling stuff now. You can get out the same set now. Real.
Cause I don't sound stupid.
Oh, the end. Oh, the end of the
Really?
The end of the Gentiles ruling?
The end of the Gentiles
I
rule.
had to think about that one for a minute.
Okay. I would say.
So that means they know within these 3 years, that's when all this.
Is that why they're trying to add time?
They're gonna be passing laws, changing time.
That's why I said
They
the
doing
gay
all this.
marriage is a
They're
marker.
trying to throw
It's a
a
marker.
office, so.
Right.
That's like the more.
Put a woman
And that
in
gay
office.
marriage is an abomination. It's an
Correct.
abomination. The Bible says it's an abomination.
So you
we're
have to
in
understand.
this time
When
now.
you're reading this, you have to understand that what Christ was talking about was when he says that was spoken from Daniel the prophet. We just went through it with the 70 weeks in Daniel the 9th chapter.
So they know that their time is finna end. That's why they're using that machine to try to open up the gates of hell
Right.
before
So
time.
we're going to be in the wilderness very, very soon. It's coming. Very, very soon.
Most High God.
That's going to be once the 3 years hit. Right now we're at, okay, that's the last slide. But let me go back. So when we say we're about when we say 1743, how did I figure this out? I should have had a slide on it. We're not actually five. No, it's not actually 3 years. We're about 1743 right now. 1750 is the Jubilees for 35. We are definitely in the last Jubilee. We have approximately 6 years or so before the consummation of Christ.
But we would be in the wilderness and all that for a time
Right.
before
Right.
Messiah comes.
Correct.
Man, that's a long
But we
time.
still, but they got
That's
3
not a
more
long
years.
time.
No,
They
that's
got-
a long time. I always
Right.
knew it growing up.
Nuh-uh.
Someone told me you gonna see something.
Six years before you
We like in 3 more
It's 3
years
years.
for these people to
Oh, this is
continue
my spirit.
to pass laws to just tear down and the war in Iran.
Yeah, the
and-
X generation, the lost generation.
Man, that gave me like, that's crazy. When I was little, I always had a feeling like you're gonna see the world and you ain't gonna have a future. Like now knowing what I know, it all makes sense.
You don't have.
I know. Which one you?
I mean, like I'm talking about living in the world.
straight
What?
Like,
I can't believe you.
man.
All right. Right.
Right.
So we give honor and praise unto the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We pray that this teaching of the 70 weeks of Daniel opens your eyes and lets you know that you don't have that much time. So all praises be to Ahia, Yeshaya's name. Amen.